Hi everyone, this is Matteo from Codeable, and in this new episode of Changing Life, we're going to meet with Jonathan Bossenger, who will share with us his story and experience as a freelancer. He will also tell us more about his experience as a Codeable expert, letting us know how this experience, in a way, changed his life. So, hey Jonathan, thank you for joining us in this new episode of Changing Life. We really appreciate it.
Hey, Matteo, thank you very much. This is a great opportunity for me, and I'm looking forward to the chat.
Ooh. So I'm really looking forward to knowing more, of course, about you and your story. So to get the ball rolling, why don't you start by sharing with us in which part of the world are you right now, where are you from, and most importantly, how long have you been a freelancer?
Okay, so I am born and bred in Cape Town, South Africa. I've literally left the country once. I'm not very well traveled, so I've grown up in Cape Town, spent most of my time in Cape Town and surrounds. I am a father of two little boys, so that makes life very interesting.
Nice.
And the main reason I became a freelancer was actually because of my specific work scenario. So my wife, when I met her, she was part of a family business that she ran with her father and mother and sister. And when her father and mother decided they wanted to retire, they wanted one of the daughters to take over the business, and she chose to take it over. And it put me in this position where I wanted to help her in the business, but it meant I couldn't work a full-time job. So I then started looking at the concept of freelancing, working for myself, and I've been doing it in sort of interesting ways for the last sort of 5 years. And there's been some interesting ups and downs, but that's kind of what's brought me to where I am now.
Okay. So I didn't get for how long have you been a freelancer? How long have you been a freelancer?
So I'm gonna start off by saying I don't like the word freelancer, just from a personal point of view. I don't know why, but you can keep using it. I'll never use the word. So
Okay.
I've been what I like to call self-employed for about 5 years now, but it hasn't actually been 100% self-employment. So when I first started looking at getting my own clients, I contacted a company who I'd had some interaction with in the previous year, and they were interested in bringing me on board in a sort of part-time contract basis. So for about 4 years of the last 5 years, I was working on site there. And then what happened was my boys were born. I started getting more involved in the family business. So my juggling of the time between the two companies was becoming very difficult. So officially, as of the beginning of last year, was when I was 100% full-time self-employed, or as I say, a freelancer.
Okay. Since you brought it up, could you please elaborate why, the freelancer word isn't, something that you like to use, and you'd rather, I heard that you're just using self-employed, right?
Yes.
Would you mind
So
elaborating a little bit?
it's really about the clients that I've met. And I don't know if it's a local thing in Cape Town, South Africa, or South Africa as a country, or whether this happens internationally. But I found that when I meet with new clients and the word freelancer comes up, so they've worked on a previous project and they hired a freelancer. And then the freelancer delivered something, and then when things went wrong, the freelancer was nowhere to be found. And it's almost like the term freelancer has been associated with somebody who will just pitch up, do the work, and then you'll never see them again when you need them again. And I decided that I was not going to refer to myself as a freelancer, because I'm the kind of guy that I pitch up, I do the work, and if in a week's time there's a problem, you can still contact me and I'll help you fix that problem. Or a month later, you need to do some updates, you can still contact me and I'll see what I can do to help you. But there seems to be, and as I say, I don't know if it's a Cape Town thing. I don't know what it's like internationally. I should probably speak to other freelancers. But in Cape Town, at least, there seems to be this thing of these guys want to just come in, make a quick buck, and then move on to the next project.
Yeah.
And just keep making quick bucks and moving on to projects, and never giving any kind of feedback or any kind of support to existing projects. And most of the time, from my experiences at least, the support has to happen because of how poor their work is. So they'll quickly package something together. It'll work when they show it to the client. It'll work for a couple of months. The minute the site hits some kind of strain or traffic or whatever, it falls over and you can't find them anywhere. And that's the reason why I've chosen to not use the term freelancer.
Okay, I totally see your point and agree, of course. And so, even if we are at the beginning of this interview, I'm going to ask you like a super tough question right away. Are you ready?
Okay, sure.
Okay, so what does it take to be a good self-employed professional? And do you think anybody can be one?
Wow. So because I've only been 100% self-employed for a year, I don't think I've fully can answer the first part of that question, because I don't think I've yet cracked 100% success in my own frames. What I can say though is I've definitely spent the last year learning from my own mistakes. And when I started as a 100% self-employed freelancer, I tried to market myself as something that I'm not. And I tried various different avenues. And if you go to my blog, you'll see there are 2 blog posts where I literally had a public meltdown. And I kind of just, threw my emotions on my blog and just told people that I hate what I'm doing and I don't want to do this anymore, whatever the case is. And I think that the key thing that I've learned, at least, and this is what I think is taking me on the path to success, is that you should stick to what works for you. So find your niche. Be it, for me, coding. For me, it's writing PHP code, JavaScript code, maybe a little bit of CSS, not designing, not building, not suggesting plugins, because that's not where my experience is. And focus on finding the clients that need what you have to give. And focus on building relationships with those clients, because you might feel like, or at least what I've learned is, I felt like my experience and what I brought to the table, because of how great WordPress is, and because of how many plugins there are, and because of how amazing the themes are, my experience wouldn't be necessary. And I learned very quickly that there are 25% of the internet running on WordPress. There are millions and millions of users. They have hundreds of different requirements.
Yeah.
So not every plugin is going to work for every user exactly the way they want it to.
No.
And I've learned that if I focus on where my strength is, I can deliver an amazing product within a reasonable frame of time, and my client is happy because they're not paying 3 times what they would, because I have to now go and learn something new and charge them for it. And that then puts me in a position where, when I'm working with clients, I know what I can expect to give them. They know what they can expect from me. The relationship is just so much better. They're happy to pay me. I'm happy to work with them. Every day just becomes successful. So for me, the big thing was to focus on that part or that thing. If you're good at site building and everything else, then great. But if you don't have a wide experience, to focus on what you're good at and what they always talk about. Sorry, I'm rambling, but
no problem. No, you're following. I'm following you.
They always talk about, find something that you love doing and you'll never have a job for the rest of your life, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about something that you enjoy, because something like, I enjoy cooking, I enjoy baking, but I can't do that for a job because that's my hobby. But I do also enjoy writing code, so I can do that for a job. I can, it's a thing about find what you love, but we can also earn money, and also gives you purpose, and that whole thing. And there's a Japanese word for it. Yeah. And if you find that thing and you focus as much of your energy as you have to finding that thing, then that will take you on the path to success, I believe.
Okay, yeah, inspiring. And so let's dig into a little bit more in our discussion. So what made you look for something new in your self-employment pattern, like Codeable? I mean, was there a specific reason, like you didn't like your previous jobs, the where probably you were working before, or in a way you felt like you were missing something on your professional life, or what else?
So I started at Codeable in about August, September last year. And if we look at that sort of the last quarter of the year, in the course of the last year, I literally went through 4 distinct phases. So the first 3 months was trying something, trying to find clients, doing website build, something which I don't have a lot of experience in, but I had these awesome themes that are doing your page builders and can do everything for you.
Yeah.
And literally, finding work that nobody else wanted because, budget or time or whatever the case is, and realizing that was not what I'm good at, what I can earn from, what I'm passionate about. So then I moved on to the next step, and the next step was, right, my focus, my niche is custom development, extending plugins, extending themes, adding functionality, REST API, all that kind of thing. So then I started looking at all the options, and there are companies like TopTal, there are companies like WP Curve, freelancer.com, Upwork. There are all these companies, and I looked at their processes, and I tried posting projects on a few of the freelancer packages. I applied at WP Curve, and I realized that most of these businesses, their focus was always about the bottom line of money. So get the cheapest developer to do the job. We don't want to spend a lot of money, so we get that seemed to be across the board.
Yeah.
And that's great for certain companies. But I found that there wasn't a company that I found across all that board that their focus was good customer service. Now, my focus is good customer service, as I explained earlier. For me, it's important to build a relationship with the client, that they know that they can contact me and say, this has happened, please help me sort it out. Even if it doesn't relate to what we did together, maybe I can advise or I can guide. Interestingly, I actually spent 5 years of my post-high school career in the customer service industry, in retail.
Oh.
So I've got that built in, the customer. The customer is your salary. So keep the customer happy and you will get a salary.
Yeah.
And then somebody mentioned Codeable to me and said, if that's how you think, you should have a look at Codeable.
Oh.
And I went on it, and the first thing that I saw, I think it was somebody who may have freelanced for you guys a number of years ago, and he now works for Automatic, funny enough.
Uh-huh.
And he said, if that's how you think, you should really check out Codeable. So I went on, and I saw that the key thing was customer service. The secondary thing was fair price for fair work, but the primary thing was building good customer relationships, good communication. Automatic talks about that communication is the lifeblood of any business. And within a freelancing environment or a self-employed environment where there's no one person controlling client-developer communication, it's up to the developer to manage better communication. Here's a business which is helping the developers do that. And I thought, this is where I can do my best work, if you will. And that's what led me to applying at Codeable.
Nice story. So, if I understood correctly, so somebody referenced you to Codeable.
Yes.
To have a look, and just, test it. And,
yes.
Do you remember, the application, or how we went through, how long, was it hard for you? Was it, I don't know, anything, anything, funny or hard, probably, I don't know.
Well, my biggest concern was my lack of WordPress experience applying as a Codeable developer, because I only started, I'd known about WordPress and I dabbled in WordPress since about 2009. My blog has been running on WordPress since 2009, but my work career was never in WordPress. It was either in other frameworks like Cake PHP or CodeIgniter or the companies that I was working for, their frameworks. So I never really got to dig into WordPress and understand how WordPress works. So when I applied, I think it was about June, midway through the year when I applied, I was very nervous that I didn't have enough experience in WordPress to get through to that point. And I applied in June and I left it. And then some time went by and I went, okay, my experience level isn't enough. That's obviously why they haven't gotten back to me. And I kind of just went on with my life. And then, funny enough, I was back on the Codeable website one day for some reason. And the little chat window popped up and there was David. And, hi, I'm David. I'm probably going to pronounce your surname wrong. David Papandreas. Just want to see if you need anything or whatever. And I thought, well, why not? Hi, David. I'm Jonathan. And we just started chatting. And it was quite amazing because I said to him up front, I'm actually not a client. I'm a previous developer. I applied and I was just on your website. And he started a conversation. And I thought, this is pretty amazing. This guy is, a happiness engineer at this company. I'm sure he's got way better things to do than chat to some random person. But here he is chatting with me. Now maybe it wasn't him, maybe it was a bot or whatever, but I just thought it was cool. And we started chatting and he said, oh, when did you apply? And I told him and he said, oh, okay, let me have a look at something quickly. And he said, okay, I see your application. And he said, okay, well, has anything changed in your life? And I said, well, when I originally applied, I was very nervous because I didn't have WordPress experience. Yeah. And he went, oh, tell me about that. And we started chatting about my lack of so-called experience.
Yeah.
And he said to me, but hang on, you've been working as a PHP developer, frameworks, all of that. So it's just learning a few new functions and a few new, way of doing things. And he said, have you built plugins? And I said, yes, I've actually, since I applied, I've built a few plugins that I'm selling. And he said, well, why haven't you added that to your application? And I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of adding my plugins to my. So he said, okay, send me the details. I sent him the details. He updated it. And within about 2 weeks, I was contacted by Chris, and Chris and I had a bit of a back and forth, and then he was going to send me the first sort of phase testing, and I was busy with a project, so I couldn't get to it, and I was nervous. I'm like, these guys are going to move on. They're not going to want me because I'm not available, and I kind of very much almost applied my employed experience of being employed at a company to this Codeable situation.
Yeah.
And Chris just said to me, no stress, no worry, when you get there, So we did the test, and he was very happy with that. And then I had the interview with, I think it was him and Raleigh, and that was I was about to speak at WordCamp Cape Town, and
so
Raleigh
nice
thought that was
timing.
pretty. Yes, Raleigh was like, wow, that's amazing, your speakers and all that. And I just said to him, I went to WordCamp Cape Town in 2015 for the first time, and I decided after that WordCamp I had 3 goals. Number one, I was going to switch 100% to WordPress. Number 2, I was going to speak at a WordCamp within the next year. I was going to bombard them with applications if I had to. And number 3, I was going to eventually organize a WordCamp. Those were my 3 goals when I walked out of there. And I'm very much a guy, when I make a decision, I do it. Whether it's crazy, whether it's, an angel's fear to tread kind of thing, I'm going to do it.
But if it's on your list,
if it's on my list, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And that's why I keep my list very small, because otherwise I'll never do any work.
Otherwise, it gets complicated. I know.
and so he was very happy, and he said, "Look, we're very happy, whatever. So thank you very much." And I think within a week, Chris came back to me and said, "Happy to have you on board." And the next day already, before I was even on the system, he was emailing me to say, "Here's a project if you're keen." So it was a very interesting, and I actually said to him afterwards. The Codeable system is very similar to the automatic way of doing things. So it was a very, very relaxed and easy to do and comfortable experience to become part of the Codeable team.
Thank you for sharing your, it's really an insider view here. I mean, and
Cool.
How things are going here at Codeable. I mean,
So things, as of today,
today,
the end of last year, today, things are going well. I have personal targets that I'm trying to meet in terms of what I want to earn. And I'm happy to share those figures. I have no problem sharing those figures. My personal target every month, I want to try and make $2,000. Now that and my income that I earn from the other business puts me in a happy place where I know that I can feed my family, I can pay my bills. There's a little bit left aside for daddy's toys. And that's my target. So as of December, my withdrawal was just short of that by $200. It was about $1,800.
So pretty
and I'm
close.
fine with that. It's pretty close if you think about the fact that I started in September.
Yeah.
The first few months, I'll be honest, the first 3 months were difficult, not because it was difficult finding work, but it was difficult for me to again find the process that I'm comfortable with. Not the process that other people do, the process that I'm comfortable with. And that's something that I would like to say to anybody watching this, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to make a suggestion, but to anybody watching this who wants to work with Codeable, is don't try and be like any other developer. Do what works for you. Because if you do what works for you, the customers that want to work with someone like you will come and find you. And that's what I found. Somebody once said to me that if you see a task, and somebody that you know well, that you respect, applies for that task. Because my question was, it's respectful for me not to apply to that task. And he said, no, because you don't know that customer, that client, will work well with that other person. That person might be amazing, but the customer might work better with you, and you are robbing the customer of the opportunity to work with you. And that opened my eyes to a different way of thinking. So as long as I stick to the way I work, and the way I'm comfortable in doing things, then the customers who want to work with that type of person, or the clients that want to work with that type of person, will work with me. And then there's no worry about other people applying, because other people will apply, and the customer will choose the person that's right for them.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't right for them, then the next customer might be, or the next customer. And that's just kind of what I've discovered, is to not worry about everybody else and just focus on my niche and what I do and how I do things, and not try to be really well. So right now, December was a really good month. January shaping up to, I think I might even hit my target. It might even go over, which I'm very excited about. I don't think it'll be much, but it might even go over, which I'm very excited about. And for me, that is quite an achievement.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
I mean, first month of the year, and last month, sorry, on December, you almost hit it, your goal. And in this month, you're almost, going above it. So
absolutely.
Congrats.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And let me go with another question. So if you look at your past working life, like, let me just use it just once, at your past freelancing life. Sorry to use that.
No problem.
And then you fast forward to today. How things have changed for you? I mean, are they any different?
So, yes, they are different in a lot of interesting ways. I can choose to take an afternoon off and spend it with my family if I want to. Or I can choose to work from 7 in the morning till 7 in the evening if I want to. So that was a big thing. When it's difficult to explain, but for those people who have children, your life changes quite drastically in that you realize that it's not about how much time you spend with them, but it's about making sure that the time you spend with them is of quality. And because we were self-employed in this business, the time that I was able to spend with my children was not quality. Mm-hmm. Now I can make decisions. And for example, my son's birthday is coming up at the end of January. Oh. And my wife is saying she wants to do something on the Wednesday afternoon. And I can say, well, I can help you with that. I can schedule my life and I can schedule my work and I can help you with that. And we're talking about, in a few months' time, just packing up and taking a few days and going away for a break. And so I don't have that requirement. And this is the funny thing, is I can go away and still do some work.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be full time, but when I was on holiday over Christmas, there was a client project that I was still doing a bit of work on because it kind of overlapped, and that was fine. And the client understood that I was away and I'd fit it in when I could, but I have my laptop, I have my internet, I can work anyway.
Yeah.
So that was a big change, is the freedom. And the interesting thing about freedom is you have to be the kind of person who can manage that freedom. There was a stage when I first started in web development 10 years ago where I wasn't self-employed. I was working with somebody else, and they were basically bringing in the clients, and I was then billing them. So I wasn't getting my own clients. I was theoretically working for them, but I was billing per project. Uh-huh. And it was so silly. I used to sit and work until about 2 and then play Counter-Strike until about 4 and then sleep till about 11 in the morning and then wake up and restart the cycle. And that's great when you're that age, but as you get older and you have more responsibilities, you can't do that anymore. Yeah. And I realized that actually, if I'd have managed that a little bit better, I could have been more productive with the time that I had and had more free time to do other things. But I didn't have a process. I was just wake up and just doing whatever my body felt like doing. And then eventually, once I'm wide awake, then I would start working. So the big thing that I found is that with the freedom comes a little bit more, you have to have a little bit more self-control.
Yeah, more structure.
But once you've got that structure, it's easy to plan things and do things. The other thing that it's brought me is almost it's very cool working for a company and working on projects for a company and doing the things that you do. But as a self-employed freelancer, you almost get more control over choosing the projects that you want to work on. And that I quite enjoy. In the beginning, I stayed away from the bigger projects because keeping to smaller projects meant I was doing different things all the time. Yeah. Now I've learned that with a bigger project, it is possible to manage it in a way that you set up sort of 4 or 5. And I'm sure it's fine for me to share this, but I'm actually going to write an article at some point for one of our internal documentation on how to take a big project and break it up into smaller tasks, because there are 2 advantages to that. Number one, you're never getting bored because you can jump around and change. Number 2, your client is not at a point where they've shelled out a huge sum of money. And let's say you get halfway through or a third of the way through and something happens in your life.
Yeah.
And you can't carry on. Now, Codeable support has to try and get another developer to read up the entire set of documentation, whereas if you'd have broken it down into tasks, the new developer just has to worry about the last 3 tasks or the last 2 tasks.
Yes.
So it just means all around, it's just easier if you need to get somebody to pick up the project, or the client gets to a point where they go, okay, I have enough. I realize I don't need these extra pieces anymore, or I don't have budget for these extra pieces anymore. Let's leave them until I do have budget. It just gives you way more scope of managing a bigger project.
Yeah, you can wrap things up, in every, milestone, in every step. That
Exactly.
You set up.
And that's kind of applying the Scrum methodology to a Codeable project.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Whoa. Nice. So, I guess you must be quite happy about this new freelancing life and path that, you've taken. So, but let me ask you one last thing. I know some other experts like you, after working with us for some time, have been able to, let's see, travel more, put down a deposit for a new home, or just invested on improving their freelance business with better software, for example. How about you? Did you do anything like that? Are you planning to do anything like this? You mentioned some vacation stuff.
So let's put it this way. Because of my journey through life and because of my experiences, I've kind of, in terms of personal goals, in terms of putting down a deposit on a house, getting a car, that kind of thing,
Yeah.
I'd already more or less achieved those before I became 100% self-employed, and that was because of the advantage that I had with this other business.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the goals are more family orientated. So making sure that I can put aside money for my children's education, making sure that I can pay off my home loan, making sure that we can improve the house, making sure that I can just make, supply for my family, food, pay my bills that I have every month, that kind of thing. But yes, there is a personal, also more of a personal goal that I want to, and I'm hoping to start that fund this year. Is a personal travel fund, because my wife and I have discussed about once the children are older and we can leave them with a granny for a week, we would like to do some traveling. We weren't able to do it before we had children, so we would like to do it afterwards. So that is something that I would like to try and put some funds away for. Mm-hmm. And obviously, being able to invest in myself. So something that I'm looking at right now is possibly looking at upgrading my laptop. It doesn't need to be done right now, but eventually it would need to happen. And I would like to get something that will last me for another 5 years. And also just looking at what I like to try and do is I like to try and take a small amount, either every month or every few months, and invest it in a piece of software that makes my life easier. So as an example, one of the early things that I did last year was I took $99 and I invested it into buying myself a copy of PHP Storm. And that has made my life so much better. Mm-hmm. Something that I started doing at the beginning of this year was I started looking at how I'm spending money on hosting and how I could improve that. And actually, I found that I could actually reduce my costs by making some changes. So ironically, being in this position where I'm working at Codeable and I'm able to manage the work coming in and have this goal, and because I know what projects are coming up, I know where the goal is and how much time, and I go, oh, well, actually, I can spare half a day and I can sit and look at where I'm spending money and how I can reduce that. So my goals right now are more around saving and family and those kind of things at this point in time.
Yeah, but that's amazing goals. I mean, they're still, super important. I mean, it's not just about...
I'm not a Lamborghini guy like Nathan.
Okay. Well, that's great to hear. So I think that's enough for today, Jonathan.
Awesome.
It was super interesting hearing your story. And thank you for sharing it with us. And once again, I would like to thank you very much for spending your time with me and all of us. So wish you a great day and talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And he said, you should really check out Codeable. So I went on and I saw that the key thing was building good customer relationships, good communication. Yeah. Here's a business which is helping the developers do that. And I thought, I need to be, this is where I can do my best work, if you will.